My name is Michael Carter. I'm 44 years old, and I want to tell you about the Tuesday afternoon that ended one chapter of my life and started another one, the one I actually live in now. It was October 9th, 3:41 in the afternoon. I remember the minute exactly because I was staring at the clock on my dashboard when my phone lit up. My wife's parents had just left after a 2-week visit, and I was the one who drove them to the airport. My wife, Jennifer, stayed home. Said her knee was acting up again. I didn't think twice about it. I never thought twice about anything back then. I was on the interstate outside Austin, Texas, doing 65 and a 60 when my phone rang. It was Maria Gonzalez, our housekeeper. Her voice wasn't steady. It had this tremble running underneath it, like she was trying to hold a door shut with her shoulder. "Mr. Carter," she said, "please don't go home yet. Check your cameras first." I asked her what was wrong. She wouldn't tell me. She just repeated it, check the cameras, and then the call dropped. Before I tell you what I saw, you need to know who Maria was to us. She'd worked in our house for 8 years, since before my daughter Sophie could even walk. She wasn't just someone who cleaned. She was the one who caught Sophie's ear infection before the doctor's office even opened that day. The living room feed loaded first. And there, sitting at my own kitchen table, was Ryan Bishop, my best friend since college, the man who gave the toast at my wedding about brotherhood outlasting bad luck. Jennifer sat across from him. Between them was a folder. My folder. The dark green one I kept locked in my home office drawer, the one with our property deed and my business paperwork inside. I turned the volume up. The audio was thin, but I caught enough. I heard Ryan say the word power of attorney twice. I heard Jennifer laugh. Not her real laugh, a flat one, and say, "He won't notice until it's already signed." I sat in that parking lot for almost 10 minutes without moving. A woman pulled up next to me to fill her tank and left, and I never even registered her. I was watching my wife's hand resting on my best friend's arm, 3 feet from a stack of documents with my name typed on them in places I never put there myself. I want to be honest with you. I didn't explode. I didn't drive home and start screaming. Something in me just went quiet. The kind of quiet right before a storm, not after one. I called Maria back. She picked up on the first ring, like she'd been holding the phone in her hand the whole time. "How long has this been happening?" I asked her. "I'm not sure exactly, Mr. Carter," she said. Then she went quiet for a second before she added something I still think about. "I checked into a motel off Highway 71 and sat on the edge of the bed, reading through everything Maria had written down and photographed for me. Dates. Times. A mention of a document she'd overheard called a durable power of attorney. A mention of moving 35% of my HVAC company's ownership into something Ryan called a protective trust before, in his exact words, he gets smart and locks us out. Here's what I didn't do that night. I didn't call a lawyer screaming. I didn't wake up my daughter with questions she didn't need yet. I sat with it. I let it hurt as much as it was going to hurt, because pretending it didn't would have made me a fool twice over, once for missing it, and once for rushing past it now that I hadn't. Wednesday morning, 8:50 a.m., I called my attorney, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Denise Alvarez who'd handled my business contracts for 5 years. I told her everything. She was quiet for a moment, then asked me one question that changed the whole shape of things. "Michael, whose name is actually on the deed to your house, and whose name is on the majority ownership of Carter Air Systems?" "Mine. Only mine." Jennifer had never been added to either one, something I'd meant to fix for years out of a sense of fairness, and just never got around to. That morning I understood, maybe for the first time, that my own procrastination had accidentally saved me. I didn't feel like celebrating. I felt sick because it meant the papers on my kitchen table weren't a misunderstanding. They were forgery in motion. I spent the next 11 days living like a man, watching a storm build on the horizon, timing the gap between the lightning and the thunder. I told Jennifer nothing. I came home like normal. I kissed her cheek like normal. I watched her flip her phone face down whenever I walked into a room, something I used to explain away without a second thought, and now saw with completely different eyes. Ryan came by twice that week when he thought I was still at the shop. Except I wasn't. I was parked down the block in my truck, watching his car pull into my driveway on the camera feed, hands wrapped around a coffee that went cold twice. Denise worked fast and quiet. On day 3, she confirmed the notary seal on one of the draft documents belonged to an office whose license had been suspended 5 months earlier for exactly this kind of thing. On day 6, she found a second account opened under Jennifer's maiden name with 3 small transfers already sitting inside it. Not huge amounts, just enough to make it look on paper like an account that had existed for years. On day 9, I moved. Quietly. Denise and I restructured the ownership of Carter Air Systems into a family trust, but not the family Jennifer and Ryan were counting on. I named my daughter Sophie as the primary beneficiary, with an ironclad clause locking out any transfer without her direct sign-off once she turned 24, managed until then by Denise as trustee. I sold our house outright to a buyer Denise found through a colleague at fair market value and used part of the money to do something I should have done years earlier. I opened a fully funded account in Maria Gonzalez's name, along with a letter making it clear that whatever happened to my marriage, her job, and her home were never going to depend on it again. I didn't do any of this to punish Jennifer. I did it because I finally understood that what was mine needed to legally belong to the people who had actually earned it. The missed calls started on day 10. Jennifer noticed the house listing go up under a different name. 11 missed calls that afternoon, 26 by evening. Ryan called twice from a number I didn't recognize until Denise told me he'd started using his brother's old phone to try to reach me. By the next morning, it was over 30 missed calls between the two of them combined. She had no idea yet how far I'd already gone. She was about to find out. Friday, October 19th, 7:15 in the evening, I finally answered. I told her to come to the house alone. She did. Ryan's car wasn't in the driveway that time. She walked in already talking, already building a story about how I was overreacting, how the folder on the table wasn't what I thought it was. I laid the bank records on the counter, then the notary suspension letter, then the trust documents with Sophie's name on them. Already filed, already final. I never raised my voice once through any of it. My voice didn't need a rise. I told her that. She stopped mid-sentence the second she saw the trust paperwork. Her face did something I'd never seen it do before. Not anger, not exactly. More like watching a foundation give way underneath a building while the roof was still trying to hold its shape. You had no right, she said. I had every right, I told her. It was always my name on all of it. She asked, quieter now, if there was any way back from this. I gave her the honest answer. I told her I wasn't interested in punishing her for the rest of her life, but I also wasn't interested in pretending the last 11 days hadn't happened. The house was sold. The business was protected in a way neither she nor Ryan could ever touch. Whatever the two of them decided to do next, they'd be doing it without access to a single thing that used to be mine. She left that night and never came back. I heard later, through people who still talk to both of us, that Ryan's own business took a hit not long after. Turns out forged documents draw exactly the kind of attention nobody wants, even when the intended target decides not to press charges out of whatever was left of 20 years of friendship. I never lifted a finger to make that happen. I didn't need to. I still live in Austin, in a smaller place now, closer to Sophie's school. Maria still works for us twice a week, though these days it feels less like employer and employee and more like two people who trust each other completely, which is rarer than it should be. She still folds that kitchen towel the exact same way. Corner tucked under corner. And every time I see it, I think about the phone call that started all of this. I won't tell you I've forgiven everything. I haven't, and I'm not in any hurry to. But I will tell you that I stopped needing anything from Jennifer or Ryan to feel like my life belonged to me again. That happened the day I signed Sophie's name onto that trust. Not the day either of them apologized, because honestly, neither one ever really did. If there's one thing I want you to take from this, it's that loyalty rarely shows up with fireworks. Sometimes it's a woman with a notebook in her apron pocket, willing to risk her own paycheck to tell you something true. Pay attention to the people who show up quietly again and again, long before you ever need them to. If this story meant something to you, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments. Who's the Maria in your life? The one person who told you the truth when it would have been so much easier to stay quiet. I'd genuinely love to hear it.